Hello and welcome back to Parenting Unpacked. You're here with Dr. Siobhan Kennedy Costantini and Dr. Kristen Summer. Hey Siobhan, how you doing?
I'm very well. How are you going today?
I am sneezy. If you haven't already heard prior to
Mm,
us starting this recording, I've sneezed a lot because it is the change of season and my body hates that. So I sneeze.
yeah, I'm really lucky. I'm the only one in my family of seven that doesn't get hay fever. I think Timo
But
does though, which is sad.
but but you get celiac, so I'm not sure if you can call
Oh,
yourself lucky.
sure. Look, having said that, there's also three other members of my family that have celiac. So at least we're the majority now, which that makes me feel empowered. But yeah, look, I'm not a genetic specimen to be admired. I have other skills, but my genes are weak.
I like that. As soon as someone says jeans, I'm just like, are the seams like, are they weak? Are they about to burst open? Like the
No,
jeans you wear? But no, I
no,
shouldn't
no,
make terrible dad
no.
jokes. We should reserve that for our husbands because I am not good at making dad jokes. But boy, is my husband. So how is family life at the moment? What's been happening in your life the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, well, Timo's been sick. I think I
Mm.
shared this on Instagram with a few because I have it. I mean, it's just how it works, right? But I had 1 week off between my terms of my sensory classes that I run, and that was the week that I was going to get everything done because I didn't have any specific like meetings or things or anything planned. It
Mm.
was just like planning mode to try and like get on top of life. And then Timo had pneumonia, which was scary and awful, and
Oh,
also meant that I was just at home with him the whole week,
oh,
which was like a blessing and a curse that he was so sick and really frustrated not being able to get all of the exciting work I wanted done. But it was also really lovely because we just had such cuddle time and bonding time and had lots of lovely conversations and explored the garden and all that kind of
oh.
stuff. So it was lovely and awful because yeah, having a sick little
uh,
one sucks, but at least we got
yeah.
to cuddle.
Doesn't that accurately describe parenting in a nutshell? Wonderful and
Mm,
awful.
mm-hmm, pretty
Yeah, that
much.
sucks. I mean, my kid in comparison has been a picture of health, except for the fact that it's been Easter and she has cow's milk protein intolerance, but basically we're just told not to give her like any like tubs of yogurt or cups of like whole milk. But yeah, she had a toddler amount of Easter eggs over the weekend, and yeah, she didn't didn't feel good. So yeah, I think
No.
we went out late yesterday afternoon to try and source the Lindt chocolate bunnies in dark chocolate because they're actually vegan, so they contain low or negligible or non-existent amounts of milk. And we were like, okay, we're going to swap the bunnies that you got for these ones instead because we don't want to withhold the chocolate from her. That's not what we want to do. And for everyone who isn't an Australian listener, in Australia, we exchange chocolate Easter eggs and chocolate bunnies, not lollies, candy, whatever you call it. Yeah, so they have these like in the US, they have these weird little like plastic egg containers that they fill with sweets, and that's what they do with their Easter egg hunt. They
Oh.
don't have like Cadbury bunnies, apparently. Maybe they do, but like apparently not. Um,
Chocolate
but
all the
yeah,
way.
yeah. Anyway, so my poor little human kept saying she had a sore belly, and then as soon as she felt better, she'd be like, "Can I have chocolate?" And I'd be like, "Sweetie, you just got over your last bout
No.
of feeling like crap." And if that isn't my child, because as soon as I don't feel like death from eating anymore, I will eat more of the things that I know I shouldn't eat. Um, thus, like persisting this cycle of like I don't know, malnourishment. I don't know what it is, destroying my insides. But yeah, so we also had a challenging weekend full of ups and downs with chocolate and belly aches. So
Yeah, poor
yeah,
thing.
parenting is awful and wonderful.
Oh, you ain't that the truth? And
Oh,
then also we
totally.
had last night we had my sister's engagement party. She's my
Oh,
younger sister, and as my mum said,
oh,
she goes, "They're all done. No more engagement parties,"
oh, that's
which was
exciting.
exciting.
Hopefully,
Yes, she's the
fingers
youngest.
crossed.
Well, this is true. Touch wood, absolutely. But yeah, so that was very exciting. I met her, my to be brother-in-law's siblings for the first time that I've heard lots about but haven't had a chance to meet. And all the kids were there, and it was pure chaos. And we had this wonderful roast dinner cooking that my little one, unbeknownst to us, turned the oven off in the middle of everything. So dinner took a lot longer than it was supposed to.
Oh my God.
Um, yeah, he does love my sister, the knobs on the oven. They're the perfect height for him.
Yeah.
And yeah, we obviously, in the chaos of everything, we didn't realize that he got to them. So yeah, dinner took a bit longer, but it was delicious when it
Awesome.
arrived.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but
love
yeah,
it.
no, that was also wonderful. But that's pretty much all that
Oh,
has been going on in my land.
yeah. That's so funny. Um, I can't imagine, like, I just can't imagine the chaos in your house as everyone's like really hungry and they're like, what's wrong with dinner? Like,
Yeah, that was exactly it. Everyone's going, dinner's taking a long time. And then they checked the oven and went, oh, the oven's been turned all the way down. And I went, oh, that would be my child.
uh,
Sorry.
but there's so many other small children in your family.
Oh,
Why would
I,
you think it's Timo?
there's a few reasons. We don't look. I shouldn't accuse. We don't know for sure. So there two of the children who are of the age, they spent the whole time outside in the garden, so it was
Fair,
unlikely to be them. The
fair.
other one, who can reach, he is one like he's the kind of kid that you tell him not to do something and then he doesn't. And then he
Oh,
enforces the rule for everyone else. Like
oh,
he's
wow,
my elder sister's kid, and she's exactly like that too, and was as a child.
wow.
So mum always said that when it came to like, she didn't know how to baby proof anything until my brother came along, because she was like, I just told Erin not to go outside, and so she didn't.
Oh my
And
God.
then, and she's like, your brother was the complete opposite. Um,
Mm.
so yes, no. Whereas Timo not only does do everything, he relishes doing it. He'll be like, oh, I'm
Oh,
not allowed to do this thing. Curious. I'm going to touch it.
oh my
Which,
God.
is
Yeah.
exactly me as a person, and exactly who my husband is as a person. And both our parents delight in the universal karma that we have been delivered.
That's so funny. That's really funny. My kid's starting to like really rebel against anything we say and being
Mm.
really cheeky about it too. Like we'll ask her not to do something and she'll look us dead in the eyes and then do it. And we'll be like,
Hmm.
Sienna Summer. And she will giggle and say, me cheeky girl. And I'm just like, oh, it's so
You're
cute. It's
yes,
so
and
awful.
adorable, but don't do it.
Mm. Yeah, I just love the fact that she
Yep.
calls herself a cheeky girl.
Yep.
What I think is really like special, like to come from that, is that like kids will echo back to you the names you call them. So like I call her a cheeky girl, obviously, a lot because she echoes back cheeky girl, and I
Mm.
don't think that has any positive or negative connotations. It's just a term of endearment. Like at least I don't call her a naughty kid.
Yeah, I think this is so interesting, right? Like, I use the
Mm.
term mischievous, or like mischief,
Oh, yeah,
very, for me, that is a positive term. That in
yeah,
kind of implies cleverness, or kind of
yeah.
creativity and wiles. Whereas
Hmm.
I've used it with other people, and they're like, that's not like, they don't say that. I was like, oh, I think it's an awesome thing. I'm saying
Yeah,
that that's good.
yeah.
But I think that comes down to, I think that's very cultural, like Australian, like the idea of being a
Yeah.
larrikin,
Yes.
um, which is like a term of endearment, or like something to be praised and lauded. Whereas I think these people were German that I was talking to, and they're like, no, it's
Oh,
not mischief. I'm like, mischief's great, man.
yeah, we
And my
really
kid is
like
the most
mischief.
mischievous.
Yeah.
Yeah, we call Timo cheeky a lot. We call him a cheeky monkey.
Yeah.
He usually turns around and says, haha, I'm tricking. We go, yeah, good job, great trick.
Such a good trick.
Yeah,
It's not
didn't
a
see
good
it coming
trick.
at all. Terrible
Mm,
trick.
I mean, the other one you didn't see coming, but
Yeah,
anyways.
no, that's true. That one he
Uh,
did pull the pull over our eyes with that one for sure.
yeah. So obviously, like words can have meaning, and children will internalize those. So
Mm.
using words like cheeky and mischievous, or whatever is culturally appropriate for your child that conveys positive, um, I don't know, undertones
Hmm.
are awesome. And then tone obviously has a lot to do with it as well.
Mm.
Like you could say, you're so mischievous, or you could say, you're so mischievous, or
Mm.
however you say it. Like there's so many different ways to say that word. And like that has a lot to do with it as well. I actually read, I don't remember where I read it, but I read the other day about yelling.
Mm.
And I thought it was a really great kind of revelation. I was going to make a video about it because when I was reading it, I kind of made this like link, and I'm really doing a terrible job of explaining it. But basically, it was saying there's good yelling and bad yelling. Well, there's really bad yelling and neutral yelling. So if you're pissed off and you're going to yell anyways, try to yell like something that isn't like going to criticize the child as a human. So rather than yelling, why are you such a horrible listener to your child, which kind of implies that they are a horrible listener, something about them is intrinsic to them. Focus on the thing that actually didn't get done. And I'm really drawing a blank on an example here. But yeah, so I found that really interesting because it's tone and it's words. So yelling, we don't love to yell, but hey, everyone yells every now and then. And if you are still working towards like reparenting yourself and not getting overwhelmed and like getting different support and adjusting to having multiple children or whatever your thing may be, like know that yelling isn't going to ruin relationships, but there are better ways to yell and worse ways to yell.
I read a really good one about that in those moments of like pure frustration, because yelling for the person who's doing the yelling can be a huge release of frustration. Like physiologically, it can really release that tension that's built up in our bodies, which is why we do it. One of the reasons we do it. And I heard this really great suggestion that if you do have this like built up of tension that just needs to escape, that kind of sing instead, like try to turn it into a song to be like, so instead of going, I'm so angry right now, and like yelling at your child, you'd be like, I'm so angry right now, I can't even stand it. And so I do this all the time, and it is ridiculous. But the great thing is that because it's ridiculous, you kind of lean into it, and it kind of makes you laugh, and kind of helps release the tension in a more adaptive way. And then usually when I'm with Timo, it just turns into us being ridiculous. I'm still probably angry at whatever's happened, but it kind of helps diffuse the tension in a more, like you say, a more healthy way.
Yeah, it's more silly.
Exactly.
I didn't think there was a lot of evidence for catharsis, which is like, releasing frustration through things like violence and like yelling and things like that. But I also don't know. I also recently found out that a couple of the really massive people that talk about child psychology on social media have never practiced or studied child development or child psychology. So some of the stuff that people see on there may not actually be evidence-based, and that really shook me to the core last week.
Was it you I was talking to? I can't remember who I was telling this to. I was listening to an audiobook of I can't remember the titles, which is good because this way I'm not dragging any names. But awesome. It was this very well like this child development, like pop psychology kind of book that people love and rave about. And I do audiobooks because I drive a lot for my work, and it's just easier. Anyway, the guy starts the book saying, this stuff is all evidence-based. It's drawn from empirical science, which is obviously observational science, which typically empiricism is observing and then altering variables and then re-observing, which is kind of the framework and foundation of the scientific method. So it started out great. I'm like, cool, this sounds good. And then he goes, all of my empiricism is derived from my work as a clinician. And I was like, oh. And the thing is, clinical experience is great and
case
very
studies
important.
Are fantastic. Qualitative case studies, data, awesome.
Super important. But to suggest that in and of itself is evidence, and that in and of itself is empirical science, it isn't. Like, that's just not accurate. And like I mean, both of us did a whole year studying this concept of the idea of how science and practitioners or clinical practice, how they complement each other, and how ideally you need both of these things. You need hard science, or not soft science, depending. So you need psychological science, and you need psychology in practice in the clinic, within the therapy room, together to fully understand something. But you can't have one or the other and pretend that that's the whole picture. Anyway, so I returned that audiobook on Audible. I refunded it and didn't listen to it anymore.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. And that's definitely
No,
like, for everyone listening, it's probably not Dan Siegel's work because he is
it definitely
evidence-based.
wasn't.
His stuff is
No,
beautiful, and you wouldn't forget
yeah,
his name.
no, it wasn't.
um,
It was someone else.
who else does? I mean, Tina Payne Bryson
She's
co-authors
great.
with um, Dan Siegel a lot, and I just realized that Dan Siegel has a teen book, like a book on the
Mm,
teenage brain, which is
yeah,
amazing because like
fascinating.
not a lot of people are brave enough to like go into like teen years because it is chaotic. Who else does good stuff? Obviously, like Alison Gopnik has a couple of public science books now, and like she's our academic grandmother. Who else is like a
There's some other
researcher
good
and
ones.
does great books? Yeah.
There is, well, it's more based on trauma, which isn't child specific,
Mm.
obviously. But the one by, it's called The Body Keeps the Score, that I'm going to Google because I am going
Oh.
to get his name wrong. This is the one that has been
Mm.
like totally reframed the way I have helped to interpret my own postnatal anxiety and depression as
Oh,
trauma,
that's
because
cool.
that's exactly what it was. His name is
Yeah.
Bessel van der Kolk. He founded the Trauma Research Institute, and he does some amazing work. Actually, their
Yeah.
website, the Trauma Research Foundation, they have a lot of free resources and parenting workshops for people,
Oh.
like parenting from a trauma perspective. So whether or not you've experienced trauma, or your co-parent or partner has experienced trauma, and how that can inform your parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe your child's experienced trauma, and that's going to inform how you relate to them. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so just completely free resources from like world-class experts sharing information. So
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing them just because why not learn from
Why
the
not?
best?
Yeah.
So that's been
Always.
really great. Um, I've in searching for this book, the book that I returned has come up. So actually, maybe I will say it.
Yeah.
I will be completely what's it called, transparent, in that I haven't read it. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's brilliant, but I just didn't love the beginning of it. Maybe I'll come back to it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's called "It Didn't Start with You," how inherited family trauma shapes who we are, and how to end the cycle, by Mark Wallen,
Mm.
which may be
Okay.
great. It also helps. I was only doing it as a side. It sounded interesting, but I don't have a family history of trauma, so
No.
it wasn't like
You do
the
not.
kind of thing that I had to like that I had to do. But I've heard mixed things from other people. So if you have read this
Mm.
book, let us know. But there's plenty of really good ones out there.
Yeah.
One that I
They used
um,
to be on my Amazon storefront. I should have a look at that thing and see if it's still there. You know?
but yeah, Dan Siegel's ones are the way to go. I absolutely love them. Oh, and then
Yeah.
Raising a Secure Child. That
Oh,
one
who's
is
that
actually
by?
written by the authors of. It's the people that did Circle of Security
Oh,
research.
okay. That's fair.
So it's like it's yeah, Kent Hoffman, Glenn
Yeah.
Cooper,
Okay.
and Bert Powell. So it's just the best in that it's like the Circle of Security training in a book for
Oh,
parents. It's really
wonderful.
wonderful.
For
So
people
the
that
idea
like
of Circle
to
of
read
Security is like
instead.
basically the foundation. Exactly.
Mm.
And so it's like it's the foundation of gentle parenting in essence.
Yeah.
It's the
Yes.
idea that that you're your child's safe space, and that it's from that space they can learn and grow and explore.
Yeah. Did you know that Dan Siegel's particular flavor of parenting is actually called mindful parenting? Because I didn't know that. And in the literature, this is the term you can search in the
I
literature.
did.
We found the term because you can't search gentle parenting in the literature, and authoritative parenting, like, I
No.
still think it's the accurate term, but it's a bit broad. Mindful parenting
Mm,
is
mm,
what the researchers are doing. It's what the researchers at my university are doing at the moment because they're way more clinically focused. So there's a lot more intersection between scientist and practitioner because the majority of the researchers at my institution
mm.
are both practitioners, so clinicians, treating actual children whilst also being researchers, which is kind of really cool. So, anyways, that's a fun new term for you to Google if the gentle parenting thing is getting on your nerves. Anyways, Siobhan, I think today is just a really chatty episode. And we can dive back into some proper content next week. What else did I want to talk about? Well, actually, I do have something I wanted to talk about because we always talk about kids and science and parenting because, that's what our podcast is about. But like, there's other parts to who we are as well. Um, so I'd like to know what you do recreationally and what you can recommend to us this week, other than run,
So I don't know if
obviously.
I can recommend it. Well, because that's exactly what I was about to say, that I'm not
Oh
going to
Lord.
recommend running. But I
Oh
just, no, you don't have to run.
no.
But I think, so I've just finished my first ever competitive trail run.
Hmm.
I did that this weekend. I did 12 kilometers. I was furious because I thought it was supposed to be 10 kilometers. And I got to 10.5 kilometers and went, what the heck is this? Where is the finish line? I did not sign up. I kind of got to the 8 kilometer mark and went, right, I can do two more. I can do two more kilometers. I can do this. And then I got in like the right headspace, and then I got to 10.5 and I went, this is bullshit.
Oh.
And I got very grumpy. And then we just kept going for another. And then my husband was very kind, and so he runs like half marathons. He can actually run, and so he was very kindly keeping pace with me, and running very slowly as a result. And then I'm just being a brat, going, walking, going, no, I refuse. Anyway, but let's not focus on that side of things, because we finished, and I got a chocolate bilby, which is a small Australian marsupial, for those who don't know, that has, in the 90s, there was a reclamation of not doing bunnies, who are actually a massive pest in Australia. They destroy crops, and illegal to own bunnies in Queensland, where we live.
Yeah.
Yes. So there was a push in the 90s to reclaim a bilby. But we tried to buy Timo a bilby for Easter. We couldn't find one
Oh,
anywhere.
Daryl Lee
But then
makes
we got
them.
some.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We got them as a prize. And so
Oh,
we
so
went, perfect. Here
handy.
you go.
Here you
Yeah.
go, my
Anyway,
child. Enjoy the bilby.
but that is what I do for myself. Trail running is like running mountain tracks, so it's in nature. So it's really actually being in nature that is the thing that
Yeah.
is lovely.
Uh-huh.
And like moving my body, connecting with, and I shared on my Instagram about how, for me, exercise and physicality, and mostly being in nature, has been really healing for me.
Yeah.
Because part of my postnatal depression and anxiety was feeling betrayed by my body and my mind,
Yeah.
as the kind of, yeah, exactly, as the I'm usually the person that's in control, that knows what I'm doing. I've got a plan. And you were exactly the same. And
Absolutely.
this was the complete opposite. My postnatal anxiety and depression was the opposite. I was rendered inept and impotent in a way that I've never experienced. So having control over my mind and body through running has been awesome.
Wow. Well done. I'm very impressed. What do you listen to while
Thanks.
you run? Like, or do you just listen to nature? Like how?
Well, yeah, so my husband and I, so the reason this is possible is because our child's in daycare. So we go for runs at the mountain tracks near his daycare, and then pick him up together. So if we're running together, we just talk. So it's a really nice time for us to connect as well. And if I'm running by myself, then I'll listen to audiobooks about child development, or podcasts,
Yeah.
or sometimes music.
Yeah. Okay.
But I love
yeah.
true crime podcasts.
Yeah,
but then
that's
it's
what I was
kind
about to
of,
ask
so I
you.
listen to true crime podcasts while I'm running, and then usually I'm the only person on these tracks, so then that can be a bit daunting.
That's terrifying. What's currently on your playlist for true crime?
Yeah. So my favorite murder, which our friend Jeremy,
Oh,
Jeremy,
really?
yeah, he
Oh my
got me onto it
goodness.
in like 2017 or something.
Yeah. It's called My Favorite Murderer.
It's called
Oh,
My Favorite Murder.
my favorite. Wow. Okay.
So it's two friends that
Interesting.
started this podcast in like 2017, 2018 or something,
Mm-hmm.
because they were true crime nerds, and they met at a other friend's wedding, or they met somewhere, Karen in Georgia, and they got talking, and then 6 hours later they were just divulging, have you heard about this crime? What about this one? Do you know this one?
Oh my goodness.
And so now they do a podcast about it, and have done for
wow.
years now. And yeah, Jeremy got me onto it. This is another PhD friend in uni. We were catching coffee. He's like, have you heard of this new podcast? And now it's like absolutely one of my favorites.
Wow.
When I was pregnant, I couldn't hack it. I wonder whether this happened to you. I like got in, I have been always totally fine with gore and like violence in like in entertainment, like really kind of dark movies. But when I was pregnant, I could not handle it. And when Timo was small, couldn't do it. Even the news I couldn't handle. Mind you,
Mm,
that's different because the news is mental.
I've never really liked thrillers or horrors or anything, although I used to spend a lot of time pretending that I liked it and like winding
Sure.
myself up into like an anxious ball trying to be that cool girl,
Mm,
which was
mm,
very stupid. So now I am vehemently against anything like that. But I do like crime shows because they're not that jumpy.
mm,
Like I don't like the jumpy stuff.
yeah.
I remember listening to, it was a really long time ago, Serial.
Oh, I
That was a really good
loved that.
podcast. It was, yeah. So that's
Yes.
like an NPR podcast, and I listen to a lot of like Wondery. So like We
Yep.
Crashed and The Dropout, which I
Hmm.
think they're both now Netflix series.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, I am now in the car a lot, so have to listen to podcasts for hours because it takes me an hour and almost a half if I want to drop my kid off at kindy in the morning and then go up to work. Usually my husband takes her, but my husband's been away a lot lately, so I need more podcasts.
Mm.
Um,
What else do I listen to? I like so yeah, my favorite murder, but I've only come back to it in the last, to be honest, since I've been much more well. When I
yeah.
like during having Timo, so it's only in the last maybe 6 months, which is actually great because it means I've got a backlog to get through, which
Oh,
is wonderful.
absolutely.
Um, if you're a word nerd, which I am, I love
Mm.
linguistics. There's one called The Illusionist,
Oh,
Allusion,
okay.
I think. So her name is Helen Zaltzman, is the
Mm-hmm.
host, and I love her voice. She's British,
Mm-hmm.
and she just sounds great. And she's all about like linguistics and little nuances of how words do things.
Those are too sciencey for me. Hey, like when I
Okay,
am
so you want something
not,
more?
well, what I used to binge before I got pregnant, while I was pregnant, and after I gave birth was Australian birth stories because they are just
Mm,
the best told birth stories. Sophie just interviews people so well, and you just get lost in their story, and it's so good. So for anyone pregnant or obsessed with birth, like they are the bomb. There is hundreds of episodes, and I think
mm,
I've listened to almost all of them. I occasionally still tune in, even though I have a lot of trauma associated with having a newborn and a small baby. I will occasionally still listen. I couldn't listen for a little while in the peak of my postpartum.
mm,
But yeah, I love them. I occasionally still tune in, even though I am not thinking about having a baby anytime soon, just because they're great stories.
mm,
And I haven't really found many podcasts that have great storytellers or great people that can pull good stories from people, if that makes sense. But yeah,
yeah. So you prefer like real stuff?
I don't know. I think I like
Sure.
stories. I think I like stories
Yeah.
that are like captivating, and I can never get into an audiobook because I like to read books. Um,
Mm,
and evident in the fact that I have read 19 books this year.
nice.
Uh,
I never read. I only listen to nonfiction books on
oh,
audio.
I can't.
Like,
I can't do nonfiction books at all. I'm so boring.
well, I can't do them with like reading.
Oh, okay.
So I only do them on audio, and it usually has to be the author because they get the intonation right. They like
Yeah,
get the pace of things properly. But fiction, no, it definitely needs to be in my hand, physical book.
yeah.
Um, but in terms of podcasts,
Mm.
have you heard of Esther Perel?
No, absolutely not.
She's amazing. She is a clinical psychologist.
Okay.
She is Belgian, but has lived in the States for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
She is a couples counselor and sex therapist,
Oh,
but she has this podcast series that it's amazing. It's called Where Should We Begin? And basically, she does once-off sessions with couples, so they're not her clients,
okay.
and everything's anonymized. People sign up to do a couple like a counseling session with Esther
Mm.
for the podcast, and she's just amazing. She's also got this book called I don't know when I found her. Oh, I found her through Dan Savage, who also has a podcast, which is basically a Q&A sex podcast. He started as
Wonder
a
what's in your
column
mind, Siobhan.
in a
I'm
no,
kidding.
Dan Savage is the best. Anyway, I've read all
Yeah,
his books. He's just hilarious and wonderful.
yeah.
But Esther Perel, she has lots of really awesome stuff about like intimacy, after having had children, and how it's really important to maintain the couple relationship separate to the child, which ties into what you were saying, right?
Absolutely.
About who are you as a person outside of your child.
Yeah.
So she has some really great stuff about that. But this, I just love it. It's like all the benefits of therapy without having to do it yourself.
Wonderful.
Because she comes to all these like amazing realizations with other people, and you're like, oh, this relates. Like you can kind of take bits and pieces and be like, oh, I do that. Maybe this is why, etc.
Yeah.
Um,
That's really cool. I like it.
So
also too
yeah,
thinky
you
for
should
me
check
though.
it out.
They're also thinky. Like I like the
Oh,
mind-numbing
sorry.
crap. I listen to Shameless, but mostly I listen to their Scandal episodes where they like
Yes.
do a bunch of research on like a historic like celebrity thing that's like dead and gone. 'Cause it's been so many years. Like they've done so many cool ones. Like they've done Marilyn Monroe. I think the one they're doing at the moment is Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee. But yeah, they're really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And my reading list is just as trashy. It's all young adult fiction, and it's really bad, like really trashy. So
It's okay.
from the hyper academic person in my off time, whether it be when I am falling asleep at 8 p.m. at night or feeding my child back to sleep at 3 a.m., yeah, I'm reading trashy stuff on my Kindle. That's it.
Nice. No,
Yeah.
that's good. Like that's brilliant. Like you need that. I mean, that's the beauty of people, right? We're complex. We're multifaceted. We don't do things one way.
Truly. And like I find it really interesting that you brought up the thing before about like trying to keep a couple relationship outside of the child relationship, because every time my husband and I like drop our kid at kindy and like spend like an hour together in the morning before we start work, I feel so guilty. Like I feel awful, like that, like I didn't have her with me, like that I forced her to another hour away from us. And I know that's not right, because like we need that time so that we can be better parents too. And like our relationship is fine. Like we are very healthy, a very healthy couple. Like we are very affectionate in front of her and things like that. So I know I'm not worried about it, but like, why do I get so guilty when I drop my kid off at kindy and then use some time for myself rather than for my work? Like what?
Well, I guess Dr. Sophie Brock has lots to tell us about the perfect mother myth and the idea of like
yeah.
the mother as a social construct and how much guilt is wrapped up around that. She's got a podcast actually. We should get her on.
Is
That
and we Happiest Mother?
We should beg her to be guests on hers as well.
Who's that?
No, this
not hers.
is
Yeah.
The Good Enough Mother.
The Good Enough Mother, that's right. I can never like disentangle all of them. My bad.
Yeah.
Yes, we should, shouldn't we?
Oh, it's all good. But yes, that sucks. I'm sorry you feel that way.
It does suck, and I don't really know what to do about it, but that's okay.
But I guess all I can think, not to, I mean, you feel how you feel, and this isn't to discredit, but it may be to help reframe that. Like, I think you spending time together honors Sienna because she is of you and from you, both of you, and the love that you two share together. So anytime you spend time like really embracing and rekindling that love, you're honoring her existence.
Okay. Like you were verging on like a pastor just then. Pastor? I don't know how you say it. Like you were delivering a sermon.
Oh, like pre-religiously.
Yeah.
Sure.
You are of the body of
I'll take
Christ.
it. You can yeah.
But no, I get what you mean. I don't know. Mother brains, they just don't make sense. They're like, no, stay with your child. Don't leave your child's side. No, take your child with you everywhere. Like, I don't know. I know that it is a good thing. I just feel guilty, especially when she looks at you and she's like, Mommy, no kindy today. Mommy, Daddy Day. And it's like, oh.
And I mean, particularly after like long weekend, right? That's when it's always the hardest, when she's had that extra day and she's like, awesome, give me more.
This morning was chaos getting her out of the house. It was just sheer chaos, and it started at 3 a.m. So yeah. Anyways, I think, Siobhan, we should wrap this up because it's a chatty random episode with basically nothing in it, but somehow half an hour of stuff. So any final remarks from you, Siobhan? Any brain exploding discoveries recently?
Oh, okay, that's a big
Oh.
ask.
Hmm.
Nothing too brain explodey. Just that despite like never feeling like anything's going right, it's all going great.
What does
So
that
there's that.
mean? What do you mean? I don't understand. Like everyone
Well,
is
like it,
alive?
good question. Okay, well, there's that. So that's certainly a component, but
Beautiful.
more like, you know how it's so easy to get tied up in the rat run of, oh, like
Mm,
I need to be doing this. I haven't got around to doing that. Like there's always something that's unfinished or undone or doesn't
yes,
feel right.
always.
But that really trying to focus on pushing that noise away, not pushing it away, but just like letting it fade away and be like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, though things aren't perfect, and also things probably never will be perfect, so there's no
Mm.
point focusing on that, and really just like tying into like the beauty and the magic of my relationships with my husband and my child and my family, and that's those connections that matter, and everything else will figure itself out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I intended to put a video up, but I haven't done it yet because I need rest instead of work. But last night on my Instagram stories, someone asked about like how do you earn money, parent a highly sensitive child, and like survive? Like, how do you do all of these things at once? And I was just like, I did that in the middle of the COVID lockdown, and I lost my sanity. I had
Mm,
extreme postpartum depression and anxiety from trying to work with a highly sensitive baby that never sleep for many, many months on end. And the way I recovered was that I prioritized rest and self care, which I know people preach about and it's really annoying. But the way I did it was that we triage in our life, even now, like what needs to be done. We had until last night a pile of washing that was no joke, like as tall as my child on the floor in our office. And it had been there for 2.5 weeks. And it wasn't that we didn't have time for it because we did. We could have done it any night of the week, but we chose not to because we chose to rest and enjoy our company and spend time
mm,
together rather than doing that one extra chore. So yeah, we started like prioritizing our like mental health. So what if um, the house is a little bit messier as long as it's somewhat sanitary and people are fed and clothed. You can have a washing like room. It can all be on the floor. Yes, it's a little bit more annoying to go digging for underwear every time you have a shower, but you know what? Sanity is more important. And what's her name?
mm-hmm.
Struggle Care. So at Struggle Care does really great videos on this about like prioritizing what needs to be done and leaving the rest because you don't need to have a perfect house. Nothing needs to be as clean and organized as it was before you had a child because regardless whether you have a highly sensitive child, which makes things really hard, or a normal child, which makes things pretty hard still, um, you still don't have the same amount of time that you used to keep up the same standards, and you shouldn't be expected
Mm-hmm.
to. So yeah, that's how I clawed my way out of that kind of I don't know what you call it, uh pit of mental
Pit of
despair.
despair.
Yeah, that's the one.
Mm.
By prioritizing rest and myself and being more
Mm.
selfish, which is kind of why I dropped my kid at kindy and spend some time with my husband all by myself, like having a nice long shower, which is always nice. Even though I feel guilty, it
Yes,
still helps me
delightful.
survive. Yeah. Anyways, that's enough to leave this on, Siobhan. I will catch you in the next one.
Yeah.
Bye.